What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review for Black Ink Crew, Season 6, Episode 7. Black Ink Crew Chicago, let me be clear. So, okay, y'all know this episode, we picking up with Glenda's story. So, Ryan rented a house down in New Orleans, and he invited all of Second City, anybody who wanted to come down for Charmaine's mom's funeral to come through. And of course, everybody thought that was really cool of Ryan, even though, Ryan wasn't really all that supportive of the shop. But what I respect is that Ryan has put all of that bullshit aside. And that just goes to show you that there was a genuine friendship and love that he had for Charmaine and her family, because he was able to put all of that aside. I'm a little disappointed in 4 and Don. I understand that you and Charmaine are in a bad place. I understand that Charmaine did not extend an invitation to you. However, a funeral is open. It wasn't like she had people at the door. I would have gone in, I would have paid my respects, and then I would have gone back to the house. At the end of the day, in hindsight, when people look back on stuff like that, you remember who was there. And you and Charmaine not being in a good place, and a lot, because Charmaine said that she didn't invite them, and I get it, but I just feel like, as someone who, if that was somebody who at one point in time was genuinely my friend and I called a sister, I would have gone. And again, I would have showed up for the funeral. I would have walked through. I would have shook hands. And then I would have went back to the house. And then if and when it looks like next week they go hang out and they go party, maybe then would have been a good time to break that ice. But again, I understand why they did not go, but I feel like they should have gone. Now, with that being said, Charmaine is handling everything for the funeral. She's taking over. Look, let me tell y'all something. Y'all want to know what broke my heart this episode? Charmaine's father. You could tell that he was barely keeping it together. You could tell that that man had been crying. I mean, much respect to Charmaine, because she was like, look, my dad, he can't do it. And if I don't put my grief aside, this ain't gonna get done. I have a funeral to plan. And it looked like it was a beautiful homegoing. So much respect to Charmaine, because that is a hard thing to do. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, that is a fear of mine. My parents have been married for over 50 years. And that is a fear of mine, that when one of them go, the other one just ain't going to be able to handle it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to go down that road. But yes, so that was so hard to watch that. Now, we'll get back to the funeral later. Back in Chicago, so Taddy and what's his other name? The other dude, they didn't go. Taddy can't go. He on papers. And the other dude, he said he gets his son on weekends. And so he was like, I don't do anything that's going to sacrifice my time with my son. And what we find out is that him and his baby moms they're not even on speaking terms. That they are high school sweethearts. They were together, had a baby together. And he said right around the time his son was born, like his son was still a newborn infant, he caught a case. He was driving on a suspended license or something crazy, and he ended up going to jail. He had a firearm in the car. That's what it was. He had an illegal firearm in the car, and so he ended up going to jail. Girlfriend was like, deuces. And from his perspective, you left me at the time I needed you most. Like, I was in trouble. Like, I literally was only in jail for a couple of weeks, and you left me. You left me, which tells me that, you really had no loyalty to me to begin with. From her point of view, she was like, I had just had a baby. The time I needed you most, you weren't there. And I didn't know if you were going to be in jail for a couple of weeks or a couple of years, and I had to figure out how to make it work without you. And so, both of them had their perspective. And what we see, because he said right now, we're not even speaking. Like, it's so bad right now, we don't even speak. She drops my son off at my godmother's house. I picked my son up from my godmother's house. We don't even speak. But what we saw later on in the episode is that she did agree to come and talk to him. And y'all know how I feel about these weird, staged, awkward ass scenes. And I feel like she was Marshawn Lynch. That she showed up just so she wouldn't get fined. I feel like they were like, look, we're gonna hook you up with $50 and a gift card to Target if you just come and do this scene. And she was like, yeah, all right, whatever. Because she was like, I mean, it was. I'm glad they got a chance to talk. I hope they got a chance to legitimately try to work through some things, but it was just an awkward scene. They met up at the toy store while the little boy was running around looking at all the toys. Let me tell y'all something. That is the worst thing to do, is take a kid to a toy store and tell them they can only get one toy. My mom used to do that to me at Toys R Us. Are you serious right now, lady? Toys R Us had 5,000 toys, and you tell me I can get one. Do you know how torturous that is for a child? Anyway, that's a side note. That's me and my I'm gonna talk to my therapist about that next week. That's me and my trauma. But we were like, so they were talking about it or whatever, and she told him how she felt, and he said, I definitely see things from her side a little bit different now. And I'm thinking, she never told you that before? But he said, that they're going to try to work on, he said, I love you. You will always be my family, So hopefully they work things out. Maybe they get back together, whatever. Okay. Don, not even Don. For in this situation with the baby daddy situation, I agree 100% with Don. I think Don was a little loud in how he was telling Four. But basically, Four ended up going out with the girl. They met up and they got their nails done. Four got a manicure, and she got her nails done. And they talked, and they had a lot in common. They seemed to kind of vibe a little bit, click a little bit. And what I think Four is being empathetic to this young lady is the fact that she doesn't know who her father is. Whether it's him or not, he identifies with the fact that was me. I grew up never knowing who my father was. And I understand where she's coming from. Whether I end up being her father or not, I feel for her and I feel connected to her somehow. So Don was telling him, look, what I would hate to see is for you to become connected to this woman, this young lady, and then y'all get the test done and you're not the father. And you end up getting hurt and she ends up getting hurt. And all I'm saying is, you need to get the test done before y'all keep hanging out, spending time together, because somebody's going to get hurt. And I understood what Don was saying, and I felt where Don was coming from. And Four was trying to explain to Don, well, you don't understand what it's like. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't understand how I'm feeling. And Don was like, I do understand. But Don, you really don't. You really don't understand what he's saying. But I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, Don is right. Four, you can't keep letting yourself get connected and get caught up with this young lady. She may be a sweetheart. Her mom may mean no harm. But that is unfair. That is unfair. To all parties involved. So anyway, Don kind of yelled at Four and then, stormed out the apartment. But y'all know they brothers. Child, they was probably texting 2 hours later. So that was what was going on in Chicago. Now let's get back to New Orleans. So Jess was saying, she really didn't know a lot about Ryan. Basically all she ever heard about Ryan was what Charmaine told her, which of course wasn't good because, Charmaine and Ryan weren't in the best place. And so she said, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to sort of talk to Ryan, get to know him a little bit better. And so she was talking to him and she was making jokes and he wasn't laughing. And she was like, I think that's my British humor. Brits humor is really different from American humor. And it is. Because I've seen that more than one occasion in different situations where people who are from, the UK, their humor is just different from ours. And it can come off very crass and very offensive. And then for them, it's just a joke. Like, it's just a joke. You've seen it on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Lisa Vanderpump. You see it with Ricky Gervais. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different type of humor. The other thing they talked about was different styles of art. And they both gave each other props on their tattooing skills. And she was just talking about how talented of an artist Ryan is. And I mean, no matter how much people say about Ryan, one thing I've never heard about Ryan is that that he is not good at what he does. I mean, never. That's one thing I've never heard about Ryan. So they, so again, they end up kind of talking or whatever, and everything is cool. So they go to the funeral, and again, Charmaine's dad. I mean, you saw a scene where Neek was helping him get dressed, and I'm just thinking to myself, this man he just really, and it was sweet to see. It was really heartfelt to see it, but heartbreaking at the same time. I mean, to see Neek help this man get dressed, you knew that the level of his grief, and even when he came out, I mean, you could just see it on it. This man was just, and Charmaine knows it. Charmaine knows that her dad is lost right now. You know, it looked like it was a really nice service. Ryan was there. Miss Kitty ended up showing up, and come to find out, Miss Kitty did the makeup, and she said she did her own mother's makeup, and then she did Charmaine's mom's makeup. And we know, if you watch Black Ink New York, you know that Miss Kitty just lost her mom on last season, so it was a couple of months ago when this was filmed. And I had a girlfriend like that. I have a girlfriend who's a mortician, and when her mom passed and they went for the viewing, she said her mother's makeup was bad, and she said and the place where where her mom's body was where she had worked. She wasn't currently working there at the time of her mom's passing, but she had worked there, and so she ended up doing her mom's makeup because she said they hadn't done it right. And I remember thinking, there is no way in the world. There is no way in the world. I mean, the strength that it would take. And so much respect to Miss Kitty for being there for Charmaine and looking out for Charmaine like that. So then, of course, Danielle was there. Of course, Kat was there. So, you know, it was a great service. We saw Ryan with Kat, and of course they tried to make it seem like whether Ryan and Kat were cool or on speaking terms. Him and Kat are cool. I mean, you know, of course, what happened is what happened. They'll probably never be friends like they were before all of that went down. But they're cool. They're speaking. You know, they're on speaking terms. Drea was there from the shop as well, and you know, she was saying she had lost her mom, and so she definitely understood what Charmaine was going through. Afterwards, you saw them kind of talking or whatever, and of course you saw the old they keep playing up this Ryan Kitty thing, you know, and both of them are saying that they're just friends. Miss Kitty was saying she's gonna be staying in New Orleans for a couple of more days, so Ryan was kind of hitting her with the, oh, I did cool, you know. They were wearing purple ribbons. So I know my girlfriend, her mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, and they had purple armbands. And so I'm wondering, I know the different colors that they're, you know, so I'm wondering if that's what her mom, I'm not sure what the purple stood for, but I'm sure it stood for something connected to her mom's ailment. Put it in the comments. I know somebody probably read it and put it in the comments. But the only other thing that kind of went down was you saw Charmaine and Miss Kitty talking, and Jess was standing there. And Charmaine was like, girl, what happened with you up in New York? Like, I heard, you know, when Miss Kitty was talking about how she got fired and that they were just tripping. They were just jealous, this, that, and the other. And, you know, Charmaine was like, well, girl, you know, if you need a job, you know, I know it's Chicago, but if you need a job, we got you. You know, I got a shop, and and Miss Jess, you know, Jess was standing there giving her the side eye, like, excuse me? You have a shop? You offering her a job? And she was upset. She said, you know, after what happened with the other tattoo artist, it seems to me like we had a conversation, and they you know how they do. They flash back to the conversation. Basically, we agreed that any future personnel decisions would be made. We would make them together. But what I like is that Jess didn't call. She didn't immediately say anything. She didn't call Charmaine out. I think it's a combination between Charmaine trying to look out for a friend, trying to help a friend, and Charmaine probably just wasn't thinking, you know? And that wasn't the time to bring it up. Even if you felt like Charmaine did it to be whatever, that just wasn't the time. You know, after her mom's funeral, let everybody talk, and when y'all get back to Chicago, y'all can talk about it, you know? So anyway, it was cool. Next week, you know, we'll see some things. Look like they back to business next week, honey. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.